This is Nick Hook, DJ, producer, and label boss of Jeepers Music. You are listening to the Liverpool Connection Podcast, music and football episodes.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Liverpool Connection Podcast. I'm your host Daz, if you're just tuning in for the first time. This is my music and football and more episodes where I bring on a DJ, a producer, a musician to talk about music and football and more. Today I've got a great guest that I have been listening to his music for a very long time, since the early days of progressive house. So that's telling my and my guest's age, which is, early 90s. But he is the label boss of Jeepers Music. And his name is Nick Hook. He has put out so many cracking records, and we're going to get into he's a Swansea supporter, so Welsh. And Nick, you will be my first Swansea supporter.
Right, brilliant.
Go figure. But I still want to talk about. I mean, I know Swansea are in the Championship, and they've got the accolades of like most of the year, but they've been in the Premier. And I still want to talk about it because there is that Liverpool connection there.
Yeah, definitely.
A lot of Liverpool ex-players have played there. They've managed the club, Toshak and Molly, big ones. But let's talk music first.
Okay.
Let's go way back.
Right.
I want to know how like music got into your life.
Right.
What was playing in your house as a kid? And did it have any influence on you growing up?
Right. Well, I think it all the music you hear when you're a kid does have influence on your life growing up, even if you don't realize at the time or think about it at the time. Because I think, my mum and dad weren't particularly big in music, to be honest, but my mum was a big Elvis fan. My mum loved Elvis. And she also loved Dionne Warwick. So that's the music. And my dad loved the Beatles and Bill Haley, all that sort of rock and roll stuff. But I think the Dionne Warwick side had a real big influence on me because of the songs, were the Burt Bacharach songs. And they definitely influenced me in terms of learning about melodies and music that I love. That, although it's not music I make, it's all these things influence your life, and I like music that has that. I like music which is sad and happy at the same time. So I love to have melancholic feelings in the track, but also uplifting feelings in the track as well. And I think that comes from listening to those early Burt Bacharach songs. So that was definitely an influence, I think.
Well, I think when we got older, we appreciate some of the music that we couldn't stand, or not couldn't stand, but we're just kind of in the background. I mean, especially like classical for me. I had no room for it when I was a teenager because I was like angst, that kid that just F you to society. Classical now is a big part of my life. I love it, and I appreciate it more. And it's just funny, like I said, I've been really privileged to do this podcast and have so many great DJs and producers come on, and they kind of all say the same thing, that they a lot of the music that the mum and dad were listening to, they didn't then, and now they're like, I get it.
You realize years later that music affected you because the music you hear as a child, in your formative years, is it does affect you, I think. Yeah, definitely.
Well, I mean, like you said, the sad and the happy part is, I think, where everyone goes to in a piece of music. If you're feeling happy, you'll put on something a bit, joyous. Feeling sad, You'll
Yeah.
put on some melon. I'll listen to the Smiths if I want to be sad.
Yeah.
Uh, but again, it's the lyrics that really
Mm.
are relatable.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And that's what I look for in music is because I love my hip hop. Um,
Yeah.
Rap music to me doesn't like the new style rap
Yeah.
music. Old hip hop was just fun, get on the
Mm.
dance floor, kind of.
Yeah.
But the new stuff, I can't relate to because I don't
No,
come
no.
from that background,
Mm.
So
Yeah.
I've got to look for lyrics that like appeal to me,
Mm.
and with everything, it's got to be emotional, or I'm just kind of not digging it.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Even
Sure.
dance music. So,
Yeah.
did you learn any instruments growing up?
I became a drummer when I was a sort of teenager. Because, as I said, my mum and dad weren't. They loved music, but they weren't into playing music, or they didn't really know a lot about music as such. So they never encouraged us to learn a musical instrument when we were kids. So I never had that thing of piano practice or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like some kids you have to go through. So I never really don't think I ever had. I never thought I had any musical talent as a child. But when I was growing up and I started to get into punk music, I wanted to be in a punk band, and so I thought, well, I just didn't think I could learn to play guitar. So I bought a drum kit. 'Cause I thought that'd be the easiest instrument to learn to play, which it probably is the easiest instrument to learn to play. But um, I think I definitely had some rhythm, so I could, um, I worked all one summer in a fruit and veg shop down in Mumbles in Swansea, and I saved up all the money that I earned that summer and bought a drum kit, second-hand drum kit, for £100, and then yeah, bashed away at it in my bedroom for ages, and invited my friends round, and we all started forming a band basically. So my first music that I used to play and my first bands were punk bands in Swansea. Um, and yeah, they were good days, and that's what yeah, punk was a major influence on my life. I wasn't really into the very early punk because I was a bit too young, but then sort of late '70s, early '80s, I became a punk rocker full time. I'm one of these people who goes into things and I go into it full time. So once I was a punk rocker, I went into it full time. So it was full punk rock lifestyle. Anarchism, politics. I became a vegetarian when I was a punk, and I'm still a vegetarian to this day. So, because that was the whole. I don't know if you remember that Crass and Poison Girls, those sort of bands, punk bands. They're all vegetarian. And we learned a lot about politics from being into those bands because we were just kids with no politics really, and then all of a sudden we are bombarded with these lyrics which were very political, and we wanted to you know, we wanted to know what they were about. So we started reading. I mean, I started reading anarchist magazines and all this sort of stuff, looking for this stuff, and then yeah. So punk was a big thing for me. Punk actually before punk, I was football. I was a football fan and big on football. Football was the most important thing in my life before punk rock came along, and then it clashed a bit because going to football matches as a punk rocker wasn't too good because I'd end up having to fight with my own fans because they didn't like punk rockers. So I started going to football matches less and becoming more into the music, and yeah, that was a big influence on me. Yeah,
Yeah, you might as well have a target on your back
yeah,
at a
yeah.
football match.
And and Swansea was a real quite redneck city in those days. It was a very quite rough place to grow up, and it was like having a sign on your back saying "Please beat me up" because we were just walking around the streets in Swansea, and people would just pick on us straight away, and groups of men would come over and start wanting to beat us up, and so yes, it was all a bit crazy. We were banned from all the pubs in Swansea. They just saw us as troublemakers, and there was one place we could get into in Swansea, which was called the Circles Club, and it's a famous old club in Swansea. If you The Sex Pistols played there, lots of bands played there, and on a Saturday night, it was the only place that you could get in as a punk rocker because they just let anybody in, and it was the craziest venue that you can imagine. The people in there was skinheads and punks and rockers, just all the dregs of Swansea would go there on a Saturday night, and they play all sorts of music. They play a mixture of rock and punk and all sorts of stuff, and it was crazy. We used to call it Dirty Doras. It was also called Pandora's at one point, so everybody called it Dirty Doras, and it's a bit of a legendary club in Swansea. Yeah. Saw some great bands there actually. Um,
So
Never played there as myself with the punk. One of my punk bands never played there, but it was a great place. Yeah,
I love stories like that, like
yeah, yeah,
the deep dive, nasty bars. But some great music will come out of
yeah,
that,
yeah,
that
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
And I think, you, as I said, we're probably around the same age, so we grew up in Thatcherism.
yeah,
So
yeah,
if you were in a band, you already
mm,
had lyrics to write
yeah,
because of how bad, especially
yeah,
the northwest and northeast of
mm,
England was treated by the
yeah,
government.
and
So
South Wales as well, of course, because of
yeah,
the mining
it-
strike.
yeah,
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 we were just like pretty much shat on,
yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah.
by the government. So I think, being a 15 to 25-year-old, the lyrics would just pour
Yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah,
when
I was a drummer in bands, but I wrote lots of lyrics as well because they just came into my head. It's just when you're that age, I think they do, don't they? They just what you're thinking about and what affects you, just you start writing it down and stuff. So
Yeah,
um,
you can turn that into a song,
yeah,
with
yeah,
things and everything. I used to, write a lot of lyrics down, but then, a week too later, I'd go back and
mm.
go, what was I waffling on about? This makes
But I
no.
still do that these days, to be honest.
You gotta come up with an idea, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So when did Acid House come into your life then?
Right. So so late 80s. Well, Um, I moved to London in mid 80s to go to art college. And it was around the miners' strike time actually. So yeah, so I was heavily involved in the miners' strike as well. I know it's not nothing to do with the Acid House that came later, um, but I was involved in it's quite an interesting story, I suppose. I was involved in one of the miners' support groups in London. So I lived in Haringey, North London, and I was involved in the miners' support groups. And we I went to I met one of the guys who was the union rep from one of the pits just outside Swansea in the Swansea Valley, and we became good friends. And he was the main character in the film. What was it called? It was about the miners' strike and about the gays in the miners' strike. Have you seen that film?
Oh, yes, yes,
Um,
yes.
I'm trying to think what it's called. And anyway, there was Bronski Beat. Do you remember Bronski Beat? They played at this gig called Pits and Perverts in um, in Camden in not one of the venues in Camden. I can't remember what it's called now. And he did the speech on the stage. And anyway, they made a film about the gays who were collecting money for the miners, and they all went down to South Wales. And it's a really good film. I can't remember. I wish I could remember what it was called. Anyway, his name was Di Donovan, and actually, we found out we were related after we met in London. We actually related that he was related to my grandfather by his first marriage. So it was all yeah. But yeah, so the miners' strike had a big effect on me as well because I used to go down to South Wales. I used to go to Yorkshire as well, take in food and all that sort of stuff because we were in the mine support group. So we used to do collections, and we used to put on gigs as well. We put on a really big gig with Elvis Costello playing, and Billy Bragg playing, and because I dropped out of art college at this point, but I could I had some art skills, so I did the posters for these gigs and stuff like that. So and yeah, I was involved in helping organise them. So they're my early promotional things were doing that. So. Um, but yeah, so I was living in London in the 80s, and then house music came along, and I started going to warehouse parties around the North Circular. Um, this would have been 88, 89, I suppose. Yeah, started getting into those sort of early house sounds of, I don't know, 808 State, those sort of bands, and yeah, then started going to clubs in London. I had to go to Kiss FM clubs. And my favourite DJ was Paul Trouble Anderson. I don't know if you remember Paul Trouble Anderson. He died a few years back now, far too young of cancer, which is very sad. He was a brilliant DJ, and I learned a lot off watching him DJ. And yeah, what I loved about those early house sounds as well was there's a lot of hip hop involved. I sort of got into house via hip hop, I suppose. I was a Public Enemy fan. I love Public Enemy, and De La Soul and all those sort of bands. And there was that house crossover with hip hop, was hip house. So I really loved the whole hip house thing. And yeah, they were just great days, really, really exciting times. So
Well, it's like for me, exactly the same.
yeah,
I came from a hip hop kind of, sound which I loved, and then Mantronics came along
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
blew me out the water. I was like,
yeah,
what is this? Because the electro sound of the US was creeping in to a lot
right,
of
yeah,
stuff. So Mantronics, I would say, was my gateway into kind of more dance music, and then
yeah,
obviously 808, and then when Voodoo Ray came out,
yeah, yeah,
I wanted more.
right,
That's the thing. So,
yeah,
um, with a lot of people, with acid house, with the rave scene, I think we just went day to day with it. It
yeah,
was just a part of us. Like it was a movement, and
yeah,
I think like
yeah, definitely.
over in the States, because I had the best of both worlds. I come come from back home where the rave scene started, and the whole thing with the repetitive beats,
Mm.
the criminal justice act.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just you look back on that and you go, this is just ridiculous. More than 10 people in a room with a
I
sound
know.
system is illegal. Like, what are
Yeah,
you talking about? And
yeah.
the States was like full blown whatever,
Mm,
they could do pretty much whatever. But
mm,
coming from that, like, I think for me, and I'm going to ask you this, Nick, as well. You know, did you ever think like later on you would have a career based out of house music, where you're just going to clubs, you're just dancing, you're having a good time, you're buying records from the record shops, you know?
mm.
I mean, could you ever have imagined it back then?
Well, not at first, no. But I very quickly wanted to become a DJ, and that was well, I just got hooked on it straight away and thought, this is what I want to do. I want to be a DJ, So, um, and it all did happen quite quickly as well, I suppose. Really, within a few years, I was DJing in clubs, and a few years later, traveling around DJing, around the world and stuff. So, um, and I think you get quite lucky as well. Sometimes you meet the right people, and that's all, that really helps. Obviously, meeting the right people. Um, so yeah, but yeah, it was a great ride, and I'm still doing it and still loving it. There's no money in it these days. That's the thing where we had a period where we could make a good money out of being a DJ and being a producer, but that's all gone really. So, but at my age now, it doesn't matter too much. You just survive on what you got, and keep doing it for the love of it rather than trying to make a living out of it. But it's yeah,
Well, that's what it's all about.
yeah,
You can
yeah,
tell the people that have stuck around from back in
mm,
the day is because they love what they do.
yeah,
They
yeah, exactly, yeah,
love making music,
yeah,
and we live in such a different world now where social media can make you a star within
mm,
a minute. You
mm,
put out a viral TikTok, and you're a sensation and
Mm.
you get booked to DJ, you have no skills.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
of them have skills. I'd
Mm.
say a lot of the TikTok DJs don't have skills.
Mm.
And they're put on this pedestal, and then other
Mm.
kids look up to them and go, I want to be just
Yeah.
like, him
Mm.
or her. And
Mm.
it leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
Mm.
You can tell the ones that graft, and you can tell
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
just they're looked at as, a pound note or a dollar bill.
Mm.
What can we get out of him or her
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
brand? And
Mm.
it's the people that make the money are the well, not A&R, but the businessmen and
Mm.
women. They make the money.
Yeah.
They squeeze every last drop out of an artist that they can.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
it's just, I think people live in this dreamland. When you want to start a band, when you want to be a DJ,
Mm.
you watch YouTube and you're like, I want to be like that. I want to have the private jet. They
Mm.
they don't understand that that private jet has to be paid
Mm.
for.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's going to be
Yeah.
paid for by the artist, where the
Yeah.
stay is paid for by the artist.
Mm.
So it's a tough business. My
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
mate Pete, who Pete Bones, as
Mm.
I've known Pete for nearly 30 years as well,
Right. Right.
and just seeing his dedication to the
Yeah.
art,
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
where he plays so many gigs every,
Yeah.
and he doesn't charge that much, but he
Yeah. Yeah.
because of the love of DJing and the
Yeah.
love of
Yeah.
making music. Uh,
Yeah.
and I think you're in the same boat.
Right.
You
Thank you.
DJ because you love it, you make music because you love it, not because of the money. Because,
Yeah.
like you
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
there's no money there unless
Yep.
you're up
Mm.
on the top tier.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
The Sashas,
Yeah.
the Digweeds of this
Mm.
world,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
David Guetta's.
Yeah. Mm.
He's and I actually appreciate what he said. I don't like his music.
Mm.
I'm not into that EDM stuff, but I
No.
appreciate
No.
when he says he's not a DJ, he's a performer.
Right.
There is
Mm.
a difference, and I think
Mm.
again a lot of the new kids coming up,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
don't really know the difference yet.
Mm.
To
Mm.
somebody who's putting on a show with fireworks and all that, rather than being in a deep,
Yeah. Mm.
dark, dingy,
Yep.
on the walls
Yeah.
club
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
the DJ booth is like, where is,
Mm.
we're
Yeah.
we're from the old school where the DJ
Yeah.
booth was way in the corner,
Yeah.
you,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I never faced the speakers, I never faced the DJ,
Mm.
I
Mm.
just did my own little dance, whatever,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's changed so much, but
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, we're in this world, and like it's got to be. Was it tough to kind of go from, obviously, like if you had records to sell,
Yeah.
put them in the boot of your car or get on a
Mm.
bicycle with a
Mm.
box full and go to your nearest record shop and try and
Yeah.
slog,
Mm.
your wares.
Mm.
Now it's so easy, anyone can make music,
Yeah. Mm.
anyone can put music out.
Yeah.
There's Bandcamp, which I
Mm.
think is the best one out there, to be
Mm.
honest,
Mm.
because most of the money will go to the artist,
Yeah. Yeah.
what
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
should. But for
Yeah.
you, how was it coming into the social media aspect of it? Having to
Yeah.
be like the face again, through
Yeah.
Instagram, through Twitter. I mean, that's a
Mm.
big change.
Yeah. It's. I find it very frustrating that you have to do all this stuff these days. I find I'm spending more time doing all the social media stuff than actually making music, which is really annoying. Not doing social media stuff as in doing videos of myself or anything, but doing all the promotional stuff you need to do for every release. Because my label I run, I, I I'm the only person involved in my label, so I don't employ anybody. Anybody like we don't make any money, so I couldn't employ anybody. Um, so I have to do everything myself, and it's literally everything from making the promotional videos, doing all the artwork, doing all the promotional stuff, and it just takes hours and hours and hours of work to do it all, you know. So, so for every release you do, you have to, you know, you might spend 3 or 4 weeks working on a track, and then when the track finally comes out, you spend at least double that promoting the track, you know, doing all the videos and so on, and just having to be on all the platforms and doing posts all the time and tagging all the people you need to tag. And yeah, it's really frustrating because you just think, I wish I was making music now and I've got to do all this instead. You know, it's like, but you've got to do it because nobody else is going to do it for you. And if you don't do it, then you're not going to get anywhere with it. And then every release is a disappointment. You know, it's you always think, oh, maybe this one will do a bit better than the last one, and they don't. You know, and but you just carry on doing it because that's what you do. You know, it becomes your life. So I mean, making music for me is always been. It's not something I have a choice about. You know, it's before I was doing music full time, I was writing music in my head all the time anyway. So I just felt I had to do it. You know, I couldn't not be a songwriter. I couldn't not be a musician. So yeah, it is me. So I have to do it. You know, so but no, I've got no complaints. There's worse things to do in the world. So
Yeah,
um,
I think I'm in the same boat somewhat with the podcast as well
right,
because I was fixated on like views and subscribers
right, yeah,
while and then my missus was like, "Are you in it for the love of doing it or
right, yeah,
the numbers?" And I was like, "Well, I'm in it for the love of doing it because I
mm,
love listening to everyone's story." And she
right,
was like,
right,
"Get the numbers then."
mm,
And thank God for her. She's the
yeah,
smart one
yeah,
out of the two.
right,
She was right. I mean, I
okay,
was
mm,
fixated, and I'm
yeah,
sure, like with record sales, you're
yeah,
fixated,
yeah,
and
mm,
you've put your heart and soul into making that art, and you put it
yeah,
out to the world. And
mm,
if only like 100 copies are sold on
mm,
port or downloads,
yeah, yeah.
it's got to hit you like
Yeah, yeah,
right
yeah,
here because
exactly. Yeah.
spent
I mean,
that
the
time.
first thing I start doing when I on my label anyway, the first thing I start doing when I start promoting a track is put it out there to DJs. So I just started promoting a new track now, and I'm looking every few hours. I'm looking to see which DJs like it and which DJs are downloading it, and then looking, and nobody's even looked at it today. Why? And it's like you get so frustrated all the time with these things. You know, you just put your heart and soul into these things, and then you're not getting the feedback that you know. And so for me as a DJ as well, I always try to give back and feedback to. Well, it's impossible so much these days actually because you get sent thousands of promos every week, and you can't react to all of them. You know, but I always try to make sure that people who I know or have been involved with somewhere along the line, I always try to react to their promos and send something positive back, you know. So because I know how much they appreciate it when they see, or blah 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 says, or he likes the track. So yeah, so I think that's important as well. Yeah.
Well, I used to be on uh remember Chris Fortier?
Yes, I do. I remember Chris. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was on his release promo, and
Okay. Yeah.
this is when we had to fax back
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
action sheets.
Yeah.
And I was getting so many records in the mail. I was just
Mm.
like,
Yeah.
I, now you just click. I'm on Steve
Yeah.
Pappy's promo list,
Yeah. Mm.
and there's so much music out there
Yeah.
that you just get lost in it.
Mm. Yeah.
It a lot of the good music is falling through the cracks, which is
Yeah.
bad.
Because there's so much awful music out there. I go through my promos every week, and well, I go from if I've got a gig coming up, I'll go through all my promos, and then if I haven't got any gig coming up, I maybe don't do it for a few days or a couple of weeks. Um, but there's so much rubbish out there now; it's unbelievable, and you have to listen to 100 tracks to find one good one. You know, so um, there's no quality control anymore because anybody can set their own label up, anybody can put music out, and which is great in some ways because you know it's great that everybody can put their own music out, but then there's no quality control, as I said. So so there's just a lot of rubbish out there. Um,
I mean,
yeah.
I appreciate, like a bedroom producer, but
Mm,
you can definitely tell, like, if you're on Beatport and you hear the track, you're just like, it's not been mastered properly. There's
mm,
obviously no engineering skill whatsoever.
yeah.
The highs are
Yeah.
too high,
Yeah.
the lows are
Yeah.
too low, the bass is all over the place.
Yeah.
You just go through so much crap,
Mm,
you know.
yeah.
And again,
Mm,
spending like I used to enjoy going to a record shop because
mm,
you socialized,
mm,
and you became friends with the sellers. Well,
yeah. Yeah.
mostly because they wanted to sell you all
Mm,
make money, which I
yeah.
understand. But you
Yeah.
did. You met so
Yeah.
many people, but
But most of the people who worked in record shops were DJs themselves, obviously.
yeah.
So you would get to know them in the record shop, and then you would go to their gigs as well, and they would come to your gigs and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So yeah,
Well, it
yeah,
was tit for tat,
yeah,
and it was great how they got to know you. And
mm,
when I'd show up, there's a stack of 20, 30
mm,
records waiting for me. And
yeah,
I miss those days because
mm,
like I said, going on Beatport by yourself,
mm,
soulless. I'll keep
yeah,
saying that over and over again. It's just soulless.
yeah,
No
mm,
interaction there, and
yeah,
I
yeah,
miss that. But I mean, for you going back to like to the prog days,
mm,
obviously loosen up and whoop it up. We're,
yeah,
we're
yeah,
massive early prog club nights, and
yeah,
you
yeah,
brought the Sashas, the Digweeds, the Nick
mm,
Warrens.
yeah, yeah,
You made a
mm,
name for yourself,
yeah,
and,
yeah.
and I heard it all the way, up from Liverpool.
Right.
Uh,
Okay.
there were cracking nights I was hearing
Right. Okay. Brilliant.
because
Wow.
I knew Steve Parry,
Right.
uh,
Right.
so they
Yeah.
used to, tell me
Yeah.
good things are going on in London. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you, like your sound was early prog, uh,
Mm,
and for you living in that time, I mean, progressive house at that time was
yeah.
absolutely massive, but then
Mm,
it started to become samey,
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and it
Became
needed.
very commercial because it sort of mixed with trance, and the progressive house scene became quite very trancey, which I quite liked at first, but then it became too trancey and too fast, and then it became very commercial because a lot of people getting hits from it, and it just became very cheesy as well. So then the tech house scene came along, which sort of put it back underground a bit, which was good. But yeah, so in the early days when I started making progressive house music, it was um, uh, so I had a label. I don't know if you remember Om Records.
Yep.
So me and Morgan King founded Om Records. We ran it for a few years, and then we fell out. We were young people, and you know you hear of all these people falling out when they're young, and then you don't realize when you're young sometimes that uh, you don't. It's easy to fall out with people when you're young because you don't realize how important life and relationships are, I suppose. But anyway, we went our separate ways. But we had a studio in West London, and yeah, we had Good Boy Records in down there with us as well. Don't know if do you remember Bump, the band called Bump? It was Steve Travell and Mark Allback. So they had the studio with us as well. So we had yeah, we had everybody coming to the studio. Actually, we had uh, sorry, my brain is not is not working too well. But we had a lot of the early people come down the studio and work with us. And oh, we had Billy Nasty. Steve Dubb was our engineer for us. Steve Dubb went on to work with Chemical Brothers and Left Field and all those sort of people. Paul Daly from Left Field came down and he used to work with us as well. We did tracks together. Billy Nasty. God, I can't remember now. It was such a long time ago, but it was all we were all just learning as well. The sort of sound that people said you had a certain sound, but for me, it was just about I did what I knew how to do. It was just learning. You're just learning as you're going along. So it was just very much all a learning process, and the sound developed from just learning how to make music. So yeah. The thing is, when you get more experience as a musician, you start to be able to do more stuff. It gets harder then somehow to make the music that people expect to hear from you, because you're wanting to progress your music, your what you're learning and stuff. So it's yeah, I'm
Okay.
quite sure what I'm saying actually, yeah,
Well, I mean, you don't really want to try and get pigeonholed. You know,
no,
I
yeah,
I think that happens a lot
yeah,
especially in the electronic scene. As you get, you're this kind, you're a house DJ. That's it. You're
yeah,
a house DJ. I mean, it's just changed so much. I mean, tech house right now is not tech house. I'm sorry.
mm,
It's just not. I mean, tech
mm,
house I know is Bushwhacker, Mr. C,
mm,
The End.
mm.
It just is. I mean, it's I can't even keep up with like the genres
Right,
in
mm.
Beatport. I think they have somebody in a basement who
Yeah, inventing these
subgenres,
genres, I think. Yeah,
and they
yeah.
go, you got a new one for us, Johnny, this morning. And he's up there going, let's see what we can just throw out there. But
Mm.
I mean, it's just good to be open-minded and not just go down one lane.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And
I mean,
I
as I've learned more about music, I've dabbled in doing different styles. Um, and the album I put out a few years back, Asylum Earth, it had quite a few different styles in it. Hip house, sort of not hip house, trip hop, ambient, and various different house styles. But my next album, I'm just learning to play acoustic guitar actually. So my next album is going to be hopefully have a lot of acoustic guitar in it as well, mixed in with electronic stuff. So it's I'm trying to yeah, go down a bit of a different route with it. So
finally get away from the drums, huh?
yeah, I do miss playing the drums though. They were the worst thing about being a drummer is carrying the drums around to gigs, because there's always so much to carry and set it all up and take it apart again at the end. But yeah, I do miss the drums.
Well, I think it's the same with DJing as well.
Mm,
You don't have to carry two boxes of records anymore. You
yeah,
just carry
yeah,
like a USB stick. It
yeah.
sounds so ridiculous to me. You know,
I
I
know.
I used to walk miles with a record
Mm,
box.
yeah,
Uh, th-
yeah,
through muddy fields and
yeah,
everything.
yeah,
And
yeah,
now you've just got this tiny little stick
yeah,
that you plug,
yeah,
and you
yeah,
you hope it works.
yeah.
So you bring about five more with you just in
Yeah,
case.
yeah, I've always got a backup. Yeah, but yeah, my old record box. I still got my old record box actually. I bought it in 1990. At the same time, I bought my decks. I went to Ibiza in 1990, and then I was determined to come back and be a DJ. And that year, um, I bought decks and a mixer, and I bought a little keyboard and a Roland R8 drum machine. And I really didn't know what I was doing with any of it, but I just so I had quite a good job in those days. So this is a little story. I worked for Shoot Football magazine.
Oh,
Shoot Football magazine.
mhm.
Well, because I was a designer, I did quite a few jobs in magazine design in London, and I managed to get a job at IPC working for Shoot Football magazine, which was a great job actually. And it was quite a decent wage, so I could afford to buy things like decks and stuff like that. Although to be honest, I bought them on the Never Never, as you used to call it in those days, on the access card. So, but yeah, so I could afford to buy equipment and stuff like that, and just started learning in my bedsit, how to put it all together. But I was quite lucky, I suppose, that I met somebody who really knew what they were doing in terms of production. And I met him through my wife. I met my wife one night in a club in London, in Camden Town, and then she was good friends with a guy called Morgan King. She'd been in a band with him before that, and we got to know each other. And he'd worked with Quartz and Clubland. He was working for a Swedish company called BTEC, and they were putting out tracks by Stonebridge and those sort of people. And we started working together, making tracks for a Swedish label called BTEC. And then they would import them into the UK, and we would go around the record shops in London with all the latest BTEC promos and stuff. So that was while I was working at Shoot magazine, and we were on the same floor as NME, New Musical Express. They were on the same floor as us, so I got to know the people at NME as well, which is very handy because I got to know some of the journalists there and stuff. Melody Maker was on the floor above us. There was a strike while I was there. Actually, we went on strike for a little while, and it was funny because the enemy supported the strike, and Melody Maker were the scabs.
Of
So
course.
yeah, enemy were good. They were quite left. They're quite lefty people, you know. So yeah, but Melody Maker crossed the picket lines. The enemy didn't. I was one of the union organisers there. Yeah, they were trying to get rid of they were trying to introduce personal contracts. We were all like members of NUJ because we were designers and stuff, and they were bringing in the personal contracts, and we were striking just to try and keep the union, keep it all as a union place, so that the unions decided that the wage structure. Of course, they won in it. Of course, they won. And that's why there's no unions in that business anymore, because at that time they were getting rid of them all. Yeah, so I'm digressing again, aren't I? But it was a good year for me. 1990 was the year I went to Ibiza. I went to Glastonbury. I met my wife, and we started a club. And I met Morgan King, who I then started working with to produce music. And then I started my club in 1991 with my friends and my wife. We started the first club I started was called Up, and we started as a weekly club night at a little venue in Haringey, in Green Lanes in Haringey, and it was a little venue underneath a flower shop where they had a little wine bar downstairs. And we just approached them and said, "Can we do a club night here?" And we did. I think we did 7 weeks in a row there as a club night, a weekly club, and we produced a newsletter every single week that club, and we printed out membership cards, and we built up a following. And in that 7 weeks, we built up a whole following of probably over 100 or so people, and moved into the West End after that. We got kicked out of there because somebody got caught giving somebody else a pill, basically. They kicked us out. But in that time, we built up a following by really, really working hard at it, and getting in touch with Time Out, and Dave Swindells was at Time Out. I don't know if you know. Did the club. He did the club. Wrote about clubs for Time Out, so there would be a club listing in Time Out every week about the best clubs to go to. So we managed to get in there, as you know, and get a relationship with them, and then we moved into doing clubs in the West End. We moved into a club called the Soho Theatre Club. We started doing monthly nights there, and we were there for about a year, I think, and that really took off as well. As we became Loosen Up, because we were initially called Up, and we found out another club were called Up, so we had to change our name, and we decided to call ourselves Loosen Up. So we spent about a year doing monthly club nights at the Soho Theatre Club, which was a great little venue. They had nights like Flying used to do nights there, so a lot of the top DJs used to play there, like Andrew Weatherall and Terry Farley and all those sort of people. And we had some really good guest DJs there play for us as well. I can't remember who we had now. Who do we have? We had Darren Emerson play for us, I think. Paul Daly, Billy Nasty. Um, we launched our On Records night there as well. We did the On Records launch party there. We had Darren Emerson playing Paul Daly. Um, uh, yeah, we were there for about a year, and then we started doing other things. We started doing nights at Ministry of Sound and other venues in London. But they were just great days. You just because you were young, you just didn't think about stuff. You just did it. Do you know what I mean? You just didn't think of. We didn't have any money really, but I used to borrow £1,000 every month of somebody who I knew had money, and to pay the fee at the Soho Theatre Club, and then give him all the profit because I wasn't concerned about making money for myself. I just wanted to do the club night. So I had to borrow. We paid £1,000 up front every month for that venue, and yeah, we just built up a following over those years. But it was all so new at the time. I remember we turned up at Soho Theatre Club one night to do one of the nights. Turned up an hour before the night was going to start, so we could set up. There was already a queue outside. And it was just all word of mouth as well, it was just all friends or friends, telling each other about it. And we'd be packed out and we'd turn people away most nights. And these days you can't dream that you could be that successful. These days it's such a struggle. Because I do club nights in Brighton these days. I've been doing, and when I put on a club night down, I'm always looking at my Facebook events to see how many people saying they can come and all this sort of stuff. And fingers crossed that we're going to get enough people in there on the night. But in those days, people just turned up because it was all so new and it was all so exciting, and it was just all word of mouth. You didn't have to promote things. We did flyers and stuff, obviously, put them in the record shops and stuff. But it was just it was just a start. It was a birth of a movement, wasn't it? So when those things happen, you can't plan it. It just happens, sort of thing.
Well, it all grew
Great to be part of it all.
organic. It grew organically,
Yeah, exactly.
which now you've got to put so much money in to back it up, and
Yeah,
if you're not a big name, you got to look at the numbers again and be like,
yeah.
we sell half the tickets.
Mm.
So when did the move to Brighton happen?
I moved to Brighton in 2005. Yeah, so my wife, who I mentioned earlier, was she went to my wife is from the same part of the world as me. She's from Wales as well. We met in Camden Town in 1990, as I said. But she went to university in Brighton to study music. She studied classical music actually. So she had an affinity with Brighton and always wanted to come back down this way. So we lived in London together for 20 years, and then she said, "Oh, I want to try Brighton." So she persuaded me to move down to Brighton, basically. And but we went down there a few times looking around and stuff, and I could see all the flyers and in the pubs and stuff, and I thought this looks like a really good scene down here. Actually, I had DJ'd in Brighton a few times while I lived in London as well, so I'd been down there a few times to some clubs, and so we moved to Brighton, and it was a great move for me. Brighton is a brilliant place. I don't actually live in Brighton anymore. I'm a bit further along the coast now. We're in Eastbourne. Just because Brighton is very expensive, and we had a small basement flat in Brighton, but if we wanted to get a house and we couldn't afford to buy a house in Brighton, so we're along the coast a bit where it's a bit cheaper, but I still go into Brighton to do my club nights and stuff. So, but yeah, Brighton is a great place, and it's a very artistic city. It's got a great scene. It's got a gay scene and got a great club scene, and it's a very alternative sort of lifestyle. It's when we lived in London, we used to go to Camden Town a lot, and I always felt like Brighton was like Camden Town by the sea. So it just felt like a good place to be. Yeah.
Well, it seems like, from because, my mate Pete lives there, Nick and
Mm.
Andy from Black Octopus live
Yeah.
there, Serge Santiago. It just
Yeah.
seems like there's competition, but it's healthy competition. and that's how it should be because that's how
Yeah,
it was back in the day.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
I mean, for you, you've got one of the longest running nights, Tech Noir.
yeah,
How do you keep it interesting? You know, because I mean, I
yeah,
read like 2007, right?
yeah. I think we started in. I think we might have started at 2009 actually. So I moved to Brighton in 2005, and I had another club called Loose for a few years. I started a label around that time as well, Cheapers Music, and and then I met a friend of mine called Danny Chase, and we started Tech Noir together. I think that was 2009 we started it. So we started off in a small little basement club in Hove, and then built up a really good following. It was very much a word of mouth thing as well. We had a really good group of friends around us and there wasn't anything like it in Brighton at that time. There wasn't. I wanted to start a really good underground club that was that played underground music, but it was had an uplifting vibe. And at that time, tech house was the best music for for that vibe. So it was very much known as a tech house night. And it was just a really good. It was just built up with a really good following of people who were all friends and friends of friends. So it had a really uplifting vibe to it straight away, sort of thing. And and yeah, it's been going all this time. Uh, I don't. I think when you have something which starts off with a group of friends and carries on building, it's you can keep it going for a certain amount of time, but you also have to introduce new people to it all the time. So you're always looking out. I think after parties are very important as well for these things. So you have to, it's you meet people who come to the clubs and then they come to the after parties with you, and then you meet new people and they come to your next club night, um, and uh, and I'm far too old to be doing this at this age, but I just love it so much. I just carry on doing it. Um,
Well, we have to socialize. You know, if
yeah,
you want
yeah,
to start a club night, you've got to put your head into other
yeah,
people's events
mm,
because again you don't want to because it won't last. You know,
mm,
you've got to put in and not just take. That's that. I think that there's more. There seems to be more people like wanting to, you know, like I mean, like the whole thing where we used to moan and groan sometimes about things. It's
right,
and you know your parents would be like, "Well, do it yourself then. Get up,
mm,
do it
yeah,
yourself." And I
mm,
think a lot more of the younger generation are starting to do these pop-up like
mm,
gigs, which I'm loving. You know, in
right, yeah,
cafes, in pubs,
yeah,
wherever they can, like you know, they ask the owner, "Hey, can I do like a couple hours DJing?" And
mm,
I'm liking that, you know, rather than
right,
the mega super clubs, which are, you know, diminishing obviously in England.
mm,
You know,
mm,
Fabric's still around, thank God, because it's still got
mm,
that underground vibe. But, you
mm,
know, clubs like Home and Club
mm,
UK, Ministry of Sound, kind of,
mm,
you know, I never really got into those
right,
kind of clubs.
mm,
It was
mm,
just to impress, to get
yeah,
just through the door.
yeah,
And
yeah,
you know, if you want somebody to dance, then
mm,
I want to sweat, and
mm,
I'm not wearing Gucci or anything like that.
mm,
I'm wearing
mm,
trainers and a pair of jeans and a t-shirt.
mm,
You know,
mm,
that's me. But
yeah,
it just seems like Brighton just seems a hub of creativity. You know,
yeah,
from what I'm hearing from Pete and Andy, you know that everything's just so good there, and
yeah,
you know you're able to express yourself. You know, whatever person you are, gay, straight,
yeah,
whatever,
mm,
who gives a crap? You
yeah,
know, as
exactly,
long as
exactly,
you're a decent human being,
yeah, yeah,
it's fine. And
yeah.
I'm going to segue now into your dance for peace.
All right, good.
And you know, it is a like I always end my podcast by saying, you know, we live in a crazy world, and
Mm,
you know, take care of yourself. Uh, We really do live in a crazy world because the other day I was watching a video with Neil Barnes from Left Field,
oh yeah,
and he was in London and he was at a protest. And,
mm,
you know, he was banging on a tin pan,
yeah,
and that he's expressing himself. And
Right.
somebody had commented and
Mm,
said, "Why, Neil? Or why don't you just
mm.
get back to the music? Don't stop like throwing
I
this down
know.
my throat."
Yeah. Mm,
And I don't usually reply to
mm.
stuff like that, but I replied to the fella, and I was just like, "Well, just unfollow him then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unfollow." And
Mm,
he replied back, just it's trendy to support the
mm,
Palestinians.
mm.
Just blew my mind.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
it's trendy. You're calling a war trendy.
Mm, mm,
Wow,
mm.
you are a arsehole. Uh,
Yeah.
I
Mm,
mean, it's not just Israel, Palestine.
mm,
There's millions of great Israelis out there,
mm.
millions
Yeah.
of great Palestinians out there,
Mm,
but what's going on in Gaza is horrific.
yeah.
You know, we live in a world where, especially America, we're so far away from what's
Yeah.
happening.
Mm,
And, everybody can just turn a blind eye
mm.
or not turn on the telly. I'm a big one where I don't want to turn on the news because it's mostly
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah.
Um, what you're doing, I really, really appreciate. And, that comes, you're a human being that cares.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all this is about. It's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
about race. It's not about what you look
No.
like. It's
Mm,
about women and children,
mm.
especially being starved
I
to.
know.
And
It's
and
just,
I really, Nick, I try and
mm.
steer away from being political on my
Yeah.
podcast because it's about
Yeah.
music and
Yeah.
football, but it eats at me as well.
Mm. Yeah.
And that's a big reason, not just because of your DJing and producing your music that I've listened to growing up, but your views as well.
Right.
Uh, I needed you to come on as well to say, why you did the Dance for
Right.
Peace. Also, for Viva Palestina as well, to put it out there. So, take me to the point where you're like, I need to do something
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for asking about this because, yeah, it's. I mean, as you said, it's just the most horrific thing we've seen in our lifetime. What's going on in Gaza? I just are horrified by it every single day, and and seen it get worse over the past 22 months or however long it is now. Just getting worse and worse all the time. When you think it can't get any worse, it gets worse. And the point where we are now is all these starving children and babies. It looks like, we it was, I think it was the anniversary of Live Aid recently. And I was watching some programs about Live Aid, and I remember that being so horrified and how horrified people were when I saw all those starving African children, and it's got to the point now where this is happening in Gaza, and it's happening on purpose. The Israeli state is doing this to these people because they see them as less than human, and they think they can do this to them and wipe them out. And no, it's just so horrific. And so me and a friend of mine, another DJ, a Brighton DJ called Afi, started Dance for Peace in uh, towards the end of 2023. I think it was November 2023, and we did our first event um, in December 2023 at the Volks nightclub in Brighton. Uh, Actually, it wasn't. Sorry, we did it I did our first event in 2024 in February in Volks, but we started planning it at the end of 2023, and and we invited just virtually every DJ in Brighton to play, and everybody wanted to play. We had over 30 DJs play. There's two rooms there, so and it was on a Sunday. They gave us a Sunday, um, and and we packed the place out. We had over 300 people there, and the reason was because everybody was felt so everybody could see what was going on, and everybody was feeling so hopeless and helpless about it all, and everybody wanted to do something, and all the DJs, it seemed like every DJ in Brighton wanted to play, you know. So we had too many DJs. Everybody was doing back to backs and short sets and everything because everybody wanted to contribute. And since then, we've been carrying it on and doing more events. And we just did another event about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And again, it was a really good successful party. And I'm just planning the next one now, which will be in October. Uh, and yeah, we're raising money for Medical Aid of Palestinians, which is the main charity that supplies, well, medical aid obviously, and food aid for Palestinians in Gaza. And it's a humanitarian thing to do, you know, and most people support us. But we're struggling with venues. A lot of venues won't give you the venue because they're scared that they're going to upset people. They don't want you to be too political and all this sort of stuff. But there's a lot. I think most DJs want to be involved in it these days because they see the horrors and they want to do something. And there's a tradition, you know, of music and politics being, you know, I mean, as I said earlier, I came from a punk tradition, and that was very, very political. You know, I learned my early politics from being a punk rocker, and then there was a miners' strike and all that sort of stuff, um, and I think showing solidarity with people is so important. And when you see people being oppressed, you have to do something about it. You know, I was very involved in anti-apartheid movement, all that sort of stuff in the 80s. And that's when I first learned about Palestine. I was being involved in the anti-apartheid movement, you know, in South Africa against what the South African regime was doing. And hearing Nelson Mandela talk about Palestine, you know, Nelson Mandela said we'll never be free until the Palestinian people are free. So I've been aware of what's going on in Palestine for a long time. And obviously, for the past couple of years now, it's all kicked off to such a big thing. Obviously, it was awful what Hamas did in October the 7th, wasn't it, 2023? It was a war crime and it was an awful thing and it should never have happened. But there is, and you knew when it happened as well, Israel's response would be over the top. The first thing I thought was, oh no, you know, if 1,000 Israelis have been killed, they're going to kill at least 20,000 Palestinians. I knew that straight away because I've seen so over the years how they've treated Palestinians, and you often see if one Israeli is killed, they'll kill 20 Palestinians or so, you know. But to the extent that it's got to now, where there's probably more than 100,000 dead, because you know the official figures are about 60,000, but there's all these people under the rubble that they don't even know about. You know, the official figures are based on the names of people they know who are dead, but they don't know a lot of people who are dead who they don't know the names of. You know, because they're under the rubble and they're never going to get them out. You know, and all the people who are going to die because of this, because of the starvation, and all the hospitals being destroyed, and you know the whole civil structure of Gaza has been completely destroyed. So there's no medicines. You know, if you've got cancer or any other thing, you know, you're not going to get any treatment if you live in Gaza. You know, so there's going to be people dying from what's happening now for many years to come because of what's happening now. And yeah, I think it's just so important that we do what we can, and it's very little what we can do, um, but yeah, we do get criticism. I do know some people who have had a go at me as well online, saying you shouldn't be doing this. It's about music. It's not about, you know, you should get back to doing your music and stop thinking about politics. But as I said, music and politics have always gone together for me. You know, my favourite bands have always been political bands. The Clash were one of my favourite punk bands, and they were very political. The whole punk thing was very political. Um, and yeah, we're just going to keep doing it as long as we can, and try and raise as much money as we can for medical aid for Palestinians, and try and spread awareness of what's going on. And we just find that people are so young people. There's definitely an age thing going on, I think. young people very supportive of the Palestinians, and yeah, they see their struggle. Like they've become more aware. Obviously, recently now they can see what the struggle is all about, and yeah, I just think it's really important to do what you can, what you can, spread awareness of what's going on. Um, I mean, in the States, I just can't imagine what it's like living in the States these days with Donald Trump. I mean, do you feel the vibe has changed out there with what's going on? I can't believe the things that come out of that man's mouth. Just and hearing our Prime Minister suck up to him as well, it just really annoys me. Keir Starmer is such a disappointment. Well, I never
Yeah,
had much faith in him, to be honest with you. But
that's like a whole nother podcast.
yeah, yeah, I know. Yeah,
It just drives me insane.
yeah,
Just again, I've had the best of both worlds. And it just seems like anybody can say anything these days over in the
mm,
States. The racism is
yeah,
it's out there because
yeah, yeah,
the leader of
yeah,
free world,
yeah, yeah,
pretty much says something, and then people will latch onto it.
yeah, yeah,
Again, more. I think more and more people are talking about Palestine, which is
yeah,
good. You know, um, I just it like it really really knocked me for six when this fella just said that. Though, just get back to what
mm,
you're good at, which is music.
yeah,
It
yeah,
just like, but we're all human beings.
yeah, yeah,
We all
exactly.
have
Mm,
feelings, and
yeah,
if
yeah,
Neil wants to bang on a tin pot,
yeah. Good for him. That's what I say.
put
Well,
it
well
in.
done, Neil. Yeah, yeah,
Even though some people will be like, "Well, what's banging on a tin pot gonna do?"
yeah, yeah,
Oh, doing nothing. What's that gonna
yeah,
do? So,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
it's a bit, again, I'm glad, you came on and spoke about your musical side, but I'm even gladder that you have the
yeah,
chance to
yeah,
speak
yeah,
about this because
yeah.
it, for me as well, it's here. I have four girls.
Right. Yeah. Mm,
So when I see pictures like I've seen, it just destroys me inside.
yeah, yeah,
And it destroyed me with the Israeli kids as well.
yeah,
Get
yeah.
me wrong,
Definitely.
and
Yeah.
I think that's where we're at a crossroads as well, because I think
Mm,
people are going, well, you're supporting Palestine
mm,
about the Israeli kids, what happened at the festival,
mm, mm.
and 100%
Yeah.
will say that
Mm,
was awful, but
yeah. Exactly.
not
Mm,
every Palestinian supports
yeah.
Hamas.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
thing. Not every Israeli supports what I
Yeah.
think they do.
Yeah. Mm,
So, people are just, they're choosing like they're
yeah.
sitting back and going, oh, you're for Palestine, but you're not for
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
No, that's not the case.
Yeah.
Anybody that suffers at the hands of brutality
Mm,
is
yeah.
wrong. And
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
care who you are,
Yeah.
it's wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? So I hate that you have to do an
Mm,
event like that. I do,
yeah. Yeah.
but you do
Yeah.
it for the right reasons. And I hope there's a solution that
Mm,
happens, because it needs to happen
yeah.
soon,
Yeah.
because it's getting worse by the day, and it needs
Yep.
to be sorted out.
Yeah. It's
You know,
just been.
it needs to be in the headlines every single day
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
till the governments come together and go, enough is enough,
Yeah. Mm.
isn't right. And it
Yeah.
seems like more and more governments are starting to go, oh,
Yeah, but it's just taken such a long time for them to actually. I
yeah,
mean, it's
too long.
yeah, and there are more and more people coming out now. More and more people, sort of celebrities and stuff, and pop stars, and Bob Geldof has started speaking up about it recently. And but why has it taken so long for them to start speaking up?
Yeah.
And
Well,
I
I
think
mean,
the fact that people are seeing starving children now, that is turning people's heads. But why? Why is starving children any worse than bombing children? Do you know what I mean? I
mhm.
mean, the scenes we've seen all these people, you know, some of these kids being pulled out of the rubble and stuff. and their parents just, you know, crying over them as they die and stuff. It just it just gets to me. I just
Mhm.
so for me, and as a musician as well, I have to write about it. So I have to make music about my experiences, you know, and be nice to making happy music, making happy music all the time. But you know, our lives are what they are, so you have to reflect what, you know, your life and what your feelings are in your music. So for making Viva Palestina for me was about um, well, another way of raising money for medical aid for Palestinians, although it's not going to make much money because people don't buy music these days. Listen to it on Spotify and you get that, you know, I'll be lucky if I can give £50 at the end of it, you know, because of it's just no money coming in off on it, you know. But to raise awareness is the most important thing, I think. And a lot of Brighton DJ producers have been involved in doing the Dance of Peace remixes of Viva Palestina. As you mentioned, Pete Bones has done a great remix for us, and the guys from Black Octopus, Andy and Nick, have done a remix for us as well. And so it's great to see. It's great that people want to be involved in doing stuff, um, and I think I've lost quite a few fans for doing it. And when I sent the promos out, a lot of people just didn't respond at all, or responded negatively when they saw it. People who normally like my music, but I don't care, to be honest. I think it's more important to do these sort of things than worry about losing a fan base and stuff, you know. So, and yeah, it's very important to me to do these things. So, um, but,
No, you stick to what you believe in. You know,
yeah,
again, I've always said like I can count my friends on like one hand
mm,
because I know they'll be there for me,
yeah,
and I feel if people get pissed off because you put out this, then they're not real
no,
fans. You know,
yeah, yeah,
again, you know, or you put on an event and
yeah,
they don't want to go to, or you're blacklisted.
mm,
We shouldn't be living in a world like that.
no, no, no,
Everybody should be able to have their say,
yeah,
whether you like the opinions or not. That's what makes the world go round. Is opinion,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
good or bad. But you
yeah,
know, we need to stand up and do something, because it is just
yeah,
again just horrific
mm,
on both sides.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
And there are a lot of Israelis now demonstrating. There's a lot of
yeah,
very brave Israeli kids are going to prison because they won't serve in the IDF. Um, so it's good to see that as well, you know. But unfortunately, they are a minority. But yeah, it's good to see people are standing up on both sides. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, stand up for what you believe in.
yeah, yeah,
That's what my
yeah,
mum and dad taught me. You know,
yeah,
just stand up for what you believe in, and sod whoever like
yeah, yeah,
doesn't like it. That's
mm,
you know
yeah, yeah,
all the best to him. That
mm,
you're you. So
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Nick, like I really appreciate you coming on and
Thank you.
spending a little over an hour with me.
Yeah. Well, you haven't even mentioned Swansea City or
And
Liverpool.
I know. I mean, we can real quick. All right, Swansea City. I,
Yeah. I've been following the Swans as a little child. And we've been through the good times and bad times, and lots of bad times actually. But we had 7 seasons in the Premiership, which was amazing. I never thought we'd have got there, and when we got there, I thought we'd go straight back down. But 7 seasons there was really good. And yeah, I think. Oh, so we've been down in the Championship now about 6 seasons, I think, maybe 7. Um, but things are starting to look up again. For some reason, we got Snoop Dogg has bought a share in the club, and so has what's his name, Luka Modric has bought a share as well, which has really shocked people. So yeah, I'm hoping good times around the corner again. But you know, football is football is football. You know, you follow your football club because you don't choose your football club. That's what I say. You don't choose your family. You don't choose your where you're born. You don't choose your football club. Yeah, it is, you know. Um, so uh, you got you got to go through bad times to appreciate the good times as well. And when you follow a team like Swansea, you've been through a lot of bad times. So do really appreciate the good times. But there was a big connection between Swansea and Liverpool. In fact, I was a bit of a Liverpool supporter when I was a child as well, because when you're a supporter of a smaller team in the bottom leagues, you always support one of the top teams as well because all your friends support. So my when I was a child, my club, my second club was Liverpool. So I did like Liverpool a lot. And yeah, and when John Toshak came to Swansea, he took us up to the old First Division back then, and Bill Shankly was really helped him. Bill Shankly did a lot for the Swans, Um, uh, when they got promoted, he went to their final match of the season before they got promoted to the First Division and gave a talk to the team and all that sort of stuff, and did a lot to help Toshak. And then we had a lot of Liverpool players and a lot of Liverpool legends and ended their careers at Swansea. People like Emlyn Hughes and Ian Callaghan, Robbie was it Smith? What was his name? Was it Tommy Smith? Tommy Smith, who was a legend, wasn't he? And then Jan Molby was also a manager for Swansea for a few years, and he was great. I loved Jan Molby. He was a class player. So there's a good connection there between Swansea and Liverpool as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just crazy to think. I was just looking back at the stats. The last time we played you was
Right.
2018.
Right. Yeah. I think we won, didn't we?
Yeah, 1-0.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mawson scored. And then I remember the year before that we beat you 5-0.
That's right. That was the season we won the League Cup, and it was that
Yeah,
that week actually we played Liverpool before we went to the League Cup final, so nobody wanted to get injured or anything like that. So yeah, we smashed us 5-0, and then we won the League Cup. We won 5-0 against Bradford. So yeah, so we did have some really good times in the Premiership.
yeah. I remember when I was there actually. I think when you
Right,
beat us 3-2.
right,
You were 2-0 up. Uh,
right.
and then we came back, and then
Yeah.
I think, is it Sigurdsson
Oh yes, Sigurdsson. Yeah, he was a good player.
scored the
He
win.
ended up at Everton actually. Sigurdsson didn't
And
Gylfi Sigurdsson. That's it. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and then he went downhill after what happened to him, which was
Well, I heard some rumours about him. It sounded very strange, and yeah, yeah. I
uh,
don't know how true they are, but yeah, it was very, very, very weird. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I enjoyed going to Swansea for away days.
Right, right.
They're good
Yeah,
times.
yeah,
It's just yeah, it's crazy to think like Snoop Dogg. I mean, because Wrexham, obviously you got Ryan Reynolds. It seems like
yeah,
Hollywood and the musical
yeah,
American empire are
yeah, yeah,
slowly buying up these, league
yeah, yeah,
championships.
yeah, yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what like Snoop brings to Swansea.
Yeah, yeah. I can't imagine he's gonna. Yeah, it's just bizarre, isn't it? It's just totally bizarre. But I'm more excited about the Luka Modric connection, I reckon, because he'll bring in I reckon he'll bring in a lot of good players
Yeah,
having him involved.
it'd be great to, see
Yeah,
him like for the first game of the season or something,
yeah,
and
yeah.
sitting next to Snoop.
I rarely
What?
get rarely get to see them live these days, to be honest. But because I live a long way from Swansea these days. But yeah, it is agony every Saturday. Or my poor wife goes through it. I think she hates the football season because she knows that my mood is very dependent on how well Swansea are doing. So whether I'm in a good mood or not. So um, but yeah, I do love my football. So
I've learned to cope now. Like if Liverpool like lose,
yeah,
my kids will get me back into just focusing on them. Like
yeah,
yeah, it used to like ruin the next 2 weeks or until
yeah.
we played again.
Hmm.
But and wanting to throw the telly through the window.
Right.
That's just gone. I
Yeah.
used to just be
Yeah.
really pissed off for a while, but
Yeah. Yeah. You
Liverpool.
develop a bit more perspective as you get older, don't you?
Yeah, of course
It's
you
not
do.
the end of the world if
Yeah,
if we lose.
yeah.
But
I'm
yeah,
I'm just loving life. Liverpool won the league last
yeah, it's been amazing. Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
We've bought really well. Um,
Yeah.
in this summer, and
Right,
this by the time this episode goes out, we could have bought three more players.
right.
And the season kicks off soon, so just
Mm,
looking forward to
yeah.
watching football again. I mean, the whole thing with Diego Jota was and
Oh God, yeah,
that
yeah.
Andre was absolutely just gut
Mm,
wrenching to hear
yeah,
that, because
yeah.
he was a
Definitely.
big fan favorite,
Right.
and
Yeah, yeah.
a
That was
lot
very
of his
sad, wasn't it?
teammates
Yeah.
were like really good mates.
You're
So
right.
that first match of the season is going to be
Mm,
really, really tough,
yeah, definitely. Yeah,
not just for the fans, but for the players themselves. And
yeah, definitely.
it's
Yeah.
one of those where, it's a tragic thing to happen. But
No, yeah,
as we all know,
definitely.
with Liverpool Football Club, we circle the wagons, and
Yeah,
as a city we come together.
yeah,
So
definitely.
that's been great to see.
Yeah. Certainly no tragedy, don't they, in Liverpool? Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm, mm,
it just shows the Scouse mentality, which,
yeah. Mm,
it's just to stick together.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What's your predictions for Swansea this season?
Well, I'm hoping we might make the playoffs, but realistically, you never know. You never know. You just don't know, do you? I got no idea really. Every season, I hope maybe we'll get the playoffs and stuff again, but and then you have a little run where you have a few good games, and then you think, oh yeah, we're going to do well, and then it all goes downhill after that for some
Mm.
reason. And yeah, we got a new manager again. I was disappointed last season that our manager got sacked. I thought he was doing a good job, but he went on a bad run and then he got sacked. And we got Alan Sheehan now. He seems like a good guy. He's not an Irish guy. Yeah, so optimistic, but yeah, um, I like the phrase optimism of the will and pessimism of the intellect, which is a quote by I think his name is Antonio Gramsci, who was a revolutionary Italian revolutionary Marxist, and I always try to live by that optimism of the will, pessimism of the intellect. So when I plan anything, plan my events, I try to be optimistic but be realistic at the same time. So yeah,
That's a good way to
yeah,
live. On that note, we'll leave it there, because it just seems
cool.
a good place to leave it. Thanks everyone for listening. Especially thank you, Nick, for coming on. I really
Thanks
do
for having me.
uh, spending an hour and 20 minutes.
That went quick, didn't
It
it?
always goes quick. I always say that to my guests, like an hour goes by so quickly when you're talking about things that
Yeah,
you are passionate about. Uh,
yeah,
if you want to check out Nick's music or events, go to nickhook.co.uk. If you want to check out his music label, go to jeepersmusic.com. And you have a Bandcamp, don't you, as
yeah.
well?
I've only just got on Bandcamp recently. I put Viva Palestina on there, and I've just got on there just to put Viva Palestina on there actually. But I'm going to put a lot of back catalogue on there. Um, uh, After a while, definitely. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, as I always say, again, thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, put your notifications on, and please look after one another. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next time.